Right, welcome everybody to our safeguarding Q&A session, which is part of British Rowing's Coaching Week 2023. This year, the theme is redefining success. Firstly, by way of introduction, I'm Richard Nunn, Safeguarding Integrity Education Officer at British Rowing, and I'm pleased to be joined by Sally Wan, who's our Lead Safeguarding Officer. Sally has been with British Rowing since early 2023. She's got a wealth of experience of safeguarding from roles in professional and grassroots sports bodies. And on a personal level, she's heavily involved in the scouting movement. Not joining us today, but equally important member of the team is Andrew Beasley, who's our case manager. Andrew has joined after a career in policing, including in safeguarding roles. So you may come across him from time to time in your dealings with the team here at British Rowing. This is an opportunity for you as coaches to ask the team here any questions that you may have on the topic. We've received a number of questions, so thank you very much for your engagement. I will say a number of the questions have been received on a similar or related topics. So we have tried to formulate questions that cover the questions you've been asking without too much duplication. Therefore, if you may find that your specific question has not been included, but irrespective, we hope that you find the answers regardless. We should add that safeguarding is an ever-evolving area, particularly in sport at the moment, as I'm sure you're aware. And we recommend that you check back to find latest guidance periodically, as things can and do change in this evolving space, and as best practice evolves as well. So I think really with that, we'll just crack on with the questions. The first one, Sally, I will hand over to you, I think, if that's all right. So the first one we have is that I'm concerned about the welfare of one of my rowers outside of rowing. What should I do? Any thoughts on that one to kick us off?
Thank you. You have a duty of care to your rowers, and it's right you should act on any concerns, whether that be inside or outside of rowing. You can speak to your club welfare officer in the first instance, who should be able to help with support for you and the junior rower, or signposting to other local sources of support. But what I would say, where possible, the club officer will also be able to help you to involve the parents. I think it's important to remember, if it's possible, to involve the parents. And finally, you can also report a concern directly to British Rowing using the report to concern form, which we'll come to later in a later question.
Thanks, Sally. A follow-up to that is particularly around junior sessions. So how many coaches are required to run junior sessions? That was a specific question asked by a coach.
Okay, so there should be at least 2 suitably checked adults, and what I mean by that is adults with an approved British Rowing DBS and an up-to-date UK Coaching Safeguarding and Protecting Children certificate. So those 2 suitably checked adults need to be responsible for the supervision of any junior sessions on water or land. However, the total number of coaches or supervisory adults that you will need will be based on your risk assessment, considering factors such as the age of the rowers, the environment you're in, the type of activity, the needs and development of the rowers. They may be new rowers, they may be quite experienced rowers, and so on. Only you will know all the different things to consider. So this means that actually more than 2 coaches and or supervisors may be needed for some of your sessions. But what we should really point out is a coach should not work with juniors alone, whether it's on a one-to-one basis or a group situation.
Great stuff, thank you. Just going through the questions now. So the next one is rather than a practical coaching one, but it is related to coaching. I'm a bit confused about the DBS requirements. Does everyone who coaches or helps out with juniors need one?
Okay, so I can help with that. The requirement is anyone that's working with children, that is whether it be coaches or supervisors of children, they should have an enhanced DBS through British Rowing, which is recorded on their membership profile. A DBS from another organisation is not accepted for roles in British Rowing, in affiliated rowing with BR. What you can do is speak to your club welfare officer who will know whether a DBS check is required for particular roles in your club setting.
Perfect, thank you, Sally. I think the next one, just having a look through here, maybe one I'll take. So this is particularly around training. So the question is, what is the recommended safeguarding training for coaches to complete? So in simple terms, the one that the coaches training we expect coaches to complete is the UK Coaching Safeguarding Protecting Children course. Course is delivered in person, or it can be delivered by a tutor in a virtual classroom. That's something we've seen a lot more of, especially since COVID. And actually a benefit of that is there are far more courses available than there were previously. You can book online directly from UK Coaching via their website, and you'll find there are multiple courses every week. So hopefully that shouldn't be a barrier to finding a course that's available to you. Important note, this is something we're really pushing at the moment. You might have seen some of the communication over the summer. We're aware lots of our coaches have actually done this training, but we don't have that officially recorded in our system, so we don't have a record of that. So we can't give you credit for the work you've done. So once completed, please do upload your certificate onto your member profile. You can create a credential and submit that for approval, which we can then check and approve that for you. And that's then valid for three years. Just a note on that course, it's the most widely accepted course in the UK across sports governing bodies. So hopefully, again, that will give you some added benefit from that course. A further thing on the training while we're here, we do see people come with the introduction to safeguarding course, whether that's the British Rowing one or another sort of online learner-led intro course from other providers. While obviously we sort of value people doing additional training, that one isn't adequate for the purposes of a coach or another supervisor of children. So please make sure you check and you do the right course, which is that UK Coaching one. Right, so I'll have a look at the next question. Okay, I already undertake safeguarding training in another role. Can I use this as evidence? I guess that's related to the previous question, I suppose. We obviously welcome and value people's experience from other roles and their other professional experience in other areas of life. But we don't formally recognise any other training for coaches or supervisors of children. We're unable to verify the content or the context of that training, which is incredibly varied from provider to provider. So to maintain that level of assurance, we do require that UK Coaching course. Hopefully that clears that one up. Just having looked through the questions again. So maybe this one's another one for you, Sally. Can juniors in the same row in the same crew as adults? So can juniors row in the same crew as adults or take part in adult sessions? That's the question.
Okay, so the answer is simply yes, juniors can row with adults. However, what you need to remember is the same level of supervision that you have in place for junior sessions is required for any of those adult sessions where juniors are involved. So that means that you should have at least 2 suitably checked adults, which I've talked about above, having with an approved DBS and an up-to-date coaching safeguarding protecting children certificate, who are responsible for the supervision. One of which could be off the water or in another boat or launch, but you do need 2 adults that are responsible for that supervision. You'll also need to ensure that the environment is suitable for the juniors. So the other adults in the boat or in the session, the adult sessions, will need to know that their behaviour and language will need to be suitable for juniors. So obviously, whilst in an adult session, it's quite okay for certain things to happen within reason. With juniors, you're going to have to be on your best behaviour, and certain things cannot be said or done when juniors are in the session. So the other adults will need to be agreeable to that, otherwise it won't work. And finally, you also need to, and this is very important, you need to ensure that the sessions are suitable for the particular junior or juniors taking part in terms of their development, in terms of rowing development and their emotional and physical maturity. So it's really important that you do take into account their needs as well within that session.
Perfect. Right. Following one, I think I'll hand this one over to you as well, Sally. Rather than an active coaching role, this is perhaps more around communications and organisation around delivery of rowing activity. So this may be from a coach, but it might be another person involved with the club that's organising sessions. So the question is, I want to send regular reminders to my rowers about training plans or changes to sessions. Can I send them a WhatsApp ? Or other messaging communication platforms? And is there any guidance around this?
Okay, so what I can say, and I think it's really important to state this, because WhatsApp is slightly unusual compared to some of the apps that you can use. WhatsApp is not suitable for anyone under 16 at all, as the minimum age set by WhatsApp is 16. Regardless of whether parents allow their children to use WhatsApp under 16, it's irrelevant. Because the legal requirement is 16, you should not use it at all when under 16s are involved. But the other thing I can say is you could look for other messaging apps and platforms that are actually more suitable for you to run people anyway. So suitable apps should not involve direct one-to-one communication method in any way, and should have suitable privacy settings so the phone number and details are not visible to others. So on WhatsApp, you can literally go into the group, pick up someone's contact and just directly message them. So anyone in the group could then do that. So that's one of the functions in WhatsApp that isn't advisable. So WhatsApp on its own right shouldn't be used for anyone under 16, but actually it's not really one of the most suitable, and you should look for an alternative platform. There are quite a few out there. I can't tell you what one is best for your situation, but there are quite a few that are used by a variety of grassroots sports settings and rowing that work quite well. But what I want to state here as well, in terms of good practice, coaches should not be directly messaging juniors in any context. So that's not good practice at all. Should not directly message juniors. And all communication for juniors that are under 16 should only be with the parents. Obviously, understanding for rowers aged 16 to 18 who want to take a bit more responsibility for their own training, a parent should be included in all those communications with juniors aged 16 to 18. So you can communicate with them, but it should be with the parent and the junior, so that the parent is aware of all the communications that are going to and fro. And you shouldn't make any separate communications just with a 16 to 18-year-old where the parent isn't included, because it leaves you open to any kind of criticism, and concerns could be raised about that.
Great, thanks. So I suppose if you're unsure of other apps and things, maybe speak to some other local clubs, whether in rowing or outside, to see if they've got any good examples and explore those. Right, next one is more of a general one, so maybe I can take that one, which is where can I find more guidance and advice on safeguarding and welfare? Well, firstly, obviously you've got British Rowing, we've got the team here. There's a range of information on our website that covers various safeguarding related topics. There's the whole range on there. So if you go to the British Rowing website, the safeguarding link is at the very top of the site, and that will take you to the page which you can access all of those. You can also obviously contact the team directly. So our contact details are also on that website, but the safeguarding at British Rowing email address comes in and can be managed by the team, so we have access to that. So that's a good opportunity to use that. Guidance external to British Rowing, if you want to explore something further. The NSPCC website is an excellent resource for general safeguarding information, or more specifically in a sporting context, the Child Protection in Sport unit, which is a sort of a subset of the NSPCC. They've actually got sport-related content on there, so I think they're probably two bits to highlight to you, as well as our own resources. Perhaps another rowing sort of related one for you again, Sally. So this is from a coach, and they say, I've got a J15 athlete who is doing lots of additional training on top of her program, and I can see her getting tired. I don't want to exclude her from club sessions, but need her to stop doing quite as much. I'm worried she'll get injured. Her parents are pushing her quite hard to do extra training as well, which is quite tricky. Any advice appreciated?
Okay, yeah, no, I can jump into this one. I think it's right. You're right to be concerned. It is important, and as a coach, if you can see this happening, you should be concerned and try and react to that. What you can do, you can use the how much, how often document that's on our website for guidance. That gives a lot more information about what is appropriate levels and the dangers of overtraining. I'd suggest you refer the parent to the guidance as well and explain the dangers of overtraining using that document to support your position. Hopefully the parent will see that what you're saying and will bring down that pressure to overtrain. If they do refuse to listen, then be really clear of your concerns, and you need to report to the club welfare officer to help manage this situation. The club then can help you with how you deal with it and what you do to speak to the parent or to manage the risk to that particular rower. So it's a difficult one because you can't really control how much extra training someone does, but you're right to be concerned when you can see the actual risks and the fatigue that's setting in with the athlete. So hopefully, if you work with the parent, they will actually realise the risks.
Great, thank you, Sally. Moving around a little bit, we're jumping around here, but now we've got one again, sort of coaching related, but it might actually apply to other people working with children as well. It's particularly around transporting children. So it says, this season I've got one athlete who will be going to junior trials, and I've been asked if I'm happy to transport them as the parent works shifts and won't be available. I have the permission from the parent. Can I travel with the athletes alone to trials, or transport the athletes to trials?
Okay, so if I answer this one then, so coaches should never be working alone with children. It's not sensible from the point of view of the coach and the risks to children. We would always expect another suitable person to be helping with supervision or coaching, as outlined in the previous questions. So that's a hard and fast good practice rule that you should really follow. And aside from that, coaches should not be transporting one or more children alone in their own vehicle or other vehicle unless there's a genuine emergency. It's not good practice to do so, and we would recommend and strongly advise you not to do it. Having the consent from the parents doesn't really mitigate the risk to the child or the coach, because I can pretty much guarantee that if something doesn't go the way the parent wants it to go, they'll be the first ones to actually come back to you and complain. And the fact that they've signed a consent will not hold any kind of water with them at all. They'll still be unhappy. So it's not a good idea. What I think I should also point out, really, when transporting children, it is important. So if you've got two suitable adults in the vehicle and you are able to transport children, you should ensure there is business insurance for the transportation of children, specifically, not just any old business insurance, specific for that purpose, that the driver does have a valid driving license and the vehicle is roadworthy, because those additional things I think people sometimes forget about. But if you don't get that right and something goes wrong, again, you will have a lot of criticism coming your way.
Brilliant, thank you, Sally. The next one is around reporting. So if you have, or what types of concerns, or incident would you like reporting to British Rowing?
Okay, so let me take that one because it is important. All concerns or incidents involving the welfare of children should be reported. I think if you see anything that doesn't seem right to you, you're not comfortable with, it doesn't matter whether you know for sure whether it's right or wrong, and you might have seen half the picture, it doesn't matter. If you see anything that you don't feel is right, then you should report it. And the way you can report this, you can report to your club welfare officer, who will be able to advise you further. They may also contact myself or British Rowing team for advice if they need it. So you can go to your welfare officer, but you can also report directly to the British Rowing using the report a concern form that's available on the website. So if you go onto the website, report a concern is right at the very top. You click on that and it'll take you straight to our form that you can use for any kind of reporting, whether it's the welfare of children, whether it's some concern about a coach or another supervisor, supervisory adult involved in sessions with children. So we are very much wanting you to report anything. And if you tell us and we don't need to do anything, that's fine. We can then just refer back to the club if necessary. But it's best to report it and be safe rather than sorry.
Great, thank you. This one's, it's not quite a follow-up question, but it's a related question around reporting, I think the next one. So this is from a coach. They say, I'm quite new to coaching. I don't feel confident enough to challenge poor practice from other coaches as they've been there for so long. Can BR offer any support in helping me to challenge this? And what should I do if I've got a concern about another coach at my club? So related, but a little bit more specific, I suppose, that question.
Brilliant. So I think those sort of two questions can be answered together. I think it's important to say that where it's possible to question and challenge the appropriate level of training and methodology for the athletes at your club, you know, with other coaches, then definitely you can try and do this. You can use the how much, how often guidance again to help with that sort of challenge. But if you feel you've seen poor practice, or you have any other concerns about the way a coach or a person responsible for children is behaving, then you need to report that potential poor practice either to the club welfare officer or directly to British Rowing, as I outlined above. It is important. We're not expecting you to challenge and try and put things right. Send it into the club welfare officer or British Rowing, and we will manage that and deal with it in the right way.
Brilliant. Thank you, Sally. The other one, I've kind of rounded up a few questions more generally related to adults at risk. So we have received some queries around this and people slightly unsure about the topic. I suppose our general advice regarding adults at risk is that obviously it goes without saying that we should treat all adults fairly as individuals and with dignity and respect. We would recommend anyone working with adults undertake suitable training. So again, there is UK coaching training available. It's called Safeguarding Adults, or either through the Ancraft Trust, which is the Introduction to Safeguarding Adults course. The Ancraft Trust are sort of the leading authority, I suppose, on safeguarding adults. Both of those training programs are online, but also if you need further specific information on there, the Ancraft Trust website's a good resource as well. Again, reiterate what we've already said. You've obviously got the team here at British Rowing as well, so any concerns or queries you have or questions around this topic, then send those into us as well, and we can answer those a little bit more individually if you have anything to question. I'm just having a look through it. I think that probably rounds up the questions we've had. So thank you very much, Sally, for your time answering those. That's been really useful. To everybody watching, again, I reiterate, I have sort of joined some questions together or generalized them slightly just so that they'd be more applicable across the board, but hopefully you feel like you've had your questions answered. If you have any other follow-up questions stemming from this, then obviously contact us via the usual means and we can support you further with those. So don't hesitate to get in touch. The safeguarding inbox is the best contact because that's monitored by more than one member of the team, which, a reminder, is safeguarding@britishrowing.org. Safeguarding@britishrowing.org. So unless you have anything further to add, Sally?
No, that's it. Thank you for putting in forward your questions, and hopefully we've given you a bit more information. But I'm really happy for anyone that wants to delve a little bit more into a specific of any of the answers to come and contact us, and we'll be able to answer your queries more individually, if that's the case. But otherwise, thank you very much.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much. On that note, I'll round up the Q&A, and hopefully this will be useful as part of the coaching week, and we wish you a successful season coming up. Thank you very much.